Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and today we're talking about how to enjoy conventions, board game conventions that is, without just focusing on 10 great games to check out at UKGE, or Origins, or Gencon, or pick whatever convention you want. I'm filming this right before UKGE 2026. I don't know if this video goes up before UKGE or after. We'll see. I have to take a look at my video schedule. But regardless, there's so many upcoming conventions, and this video is a bit more focused on exhibitor type conventions. Meaning there's so many conventions out there. There's playing games conventions. There's my own Level Up. There's Dice Tower East, Dice Tower West, Dice Tower Retreat. There's the BGG Con. BGG has 2 cons a year where you play games. There's, what's it called? Oh my gosh, what's the Midwest one that I always forget the name of? There's a bunch of conventions. A lot of conventions where you can just go to play games. And this is not about those type of conventions. This video is about exhibitor-focused conventions. In conventions where you primarily are going to see the newest, latest, greatest games that are coming out, or you may not be going there, but that's certainly the focus of these conventions. And when I say that, I mean things like Origins in Columbus, that's going to be coming up soon in June. UKGE in Birmingham, that happens every year in around May, early June. It's happening this year, you know, late May, early June. I think it ends June 1st. I have to double check the exact dates. So we have, I guess in order, we have UKGE, then we have Origins, Gamma Expo, if you're in the industry, that happens usually in March, but let's not focus on that as much. This video is to my entire audience, not just people in the industry. Then we have Gencon, obviously one of the big ones domestically. Then we have Essen in Germany, that was the biggest one in the industry, if I'm not mistaken. And then we have PAX Unplugged. I would say those 5 are more the ones I have in mind, although I'm sure there's a lot of others, but those 5 are all conventions with attendance in the tens of thousands and some cases over 100,000, and they all are focusing on bringing you, here are the new games coming out. And it's usually about this time every single year that you see videos from a bunch of channels, myself included, make no mistake, whether it's on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, pick your platform of choice, and suddenly people are telling you about the 10 games you can't miss at UKGE. The 10 games I'm most excited about at UKGE. Here's 5 games that I am really intrigued by. Here's 3 games you should know about. Here's 2 things you can demo, 5 things you can buy. Here's all the stuff that's coming out, and there's so much of it. And it's good to have that content for a variety of reasons, but I also think that sometimes it's missing the point. Sometimes there's so much focus on the 10 games at, again, pick convention name here, that it can get people all up in arms about the things they need to experience, to properly experience. You can't have experienced Gen Con unless you've tried and seen and demoed and bought these 50 games that your favorite content creators are highlighting. And that is so missing the point. These videos are good. They're good for content creators because honestly they're great to make and they're good clicks and, you know, people watch them. They're relatively easy to make. You don't have to review the games. You don't have to play them a dozen times just to be excited of them. That's often all you're doing. Sometimes they're like, I got to play this early and here I'm excited about it. In which case you already played it anyway. Other times there are games that you just are interested in. So it's good content for content creators and it's useful for people looking for things to be on their radar. It is useful to walk into a convention and have some sense of these are the things that people are excited about. I don't think these videos are without merit. I'm not against them. I do them and will continue to do them. But I think sometimes it's important to do videos. I'm going to try to do videos like this probably more often because I think that it can make you feel, as a consumer, it can make you feel like you need to try these things. Otherwise, why were you even going? And the truth is, you don't need to play a single one of these games to enjoy a convention. Conventions exist for so many reasons. And your own reasons for going to a convention are going to be, well, your own reasons. So there's definitely a degree of figuring out your own motivations. But I think if you're going to conventions just for the latest and greatest on hotness and buzz, if that's the main thing you're going for, I don't think that's the best part of the hobby. I think it's one of the worst parts of the hobby is chasing the cult of the new. It's exciting, make no mistake. Suddenly a new game comes out, everyone's talking about it, and you can't get your hands on it until next year when it's more available. Because if you weren't standing in line for 3 hours at a convention, you missed out on it. And sure, that can suck when everyone loves that game. But most of us have too many games that we're not playing anyway. Most of us are not going to really suffer if we don't get our hands on the latest, greatest games until down the road. And the harsh reality is that if it's not exciting to get your hands in it a year and a half from now, it probably wasn't that good anyway. It was probably a flash in the pan. That's usually what happens. Don't get me wrong, if you feel the need to pick it up, sure, standing in line for 3 hours might be preferable to paying $300 to get a rare copy of the game when you can't currently get your hands in it. That might be preferable. Or you could just wait a year and either no one's talking about it anymore and it wasn't worth spending your time on it amongst so many great games in your collection that are not receiving enough love from you. Alternatively, it was great and it'll be reprinted and you can get your hands on it then. Some of my favorite games in my collection, games like Blood Rage, Terraforming Mars, Spirit Island, are all games that I didn't try when they came out. I tried them years later and they are still here today. They have stood the test of the time and I didn't get caught up in the hype and the buzz because I wasn't the content creator. I wasn't the cult of the new back then. I would often and frequently wait to get my hands on things. It doesn't mean you should avoid the newest, greatest things. It doesn't mean you should try not to get fun things at conventions. There is something fun in this hobby about coming home with fun new games. It certainly is a good part of the hobby, and very often those games will not last. Again, they have not stood the test of time in the general community, and so you're part of being a beta tester. And you know what? It's fun to be a beta tester, but it's not necessarily the best thing about this hobby, not by a long shot. When I go to conventions, the biggest thing for me, time and time again, are the people. Every single time I go to a convention, there are more people I recognize from prior conventions. Going to the same convention again and again, going to UKG for the second time now, I will recognize more faces than I did the first time. But this wasn't something that happened overnight. Origins Game Fair was my first convention I ever went to. I want to say in 2020? Maybe 2021? It was after COVID and everything opened up, so I feel that must have been 2021. But Origins Game Fair, whichever year it was, Origins Game Fair was the first convention I ever went to. And the first time I went, I was like, this is fun. I was very excited about it, but I don't know if I need to do this all the time. But then I went to another convention, and I recognized people from that first convention. And then I went to another convention, and I recognized people from that convention. And I kept finding these people who would group up in this hobby. You go to conventions because it's something that we share this hobby with, and you get to see people time and time again, and that is something that makes going to conventions an addicting process. This, by the way, does apply to all the conventions. I'm not saying this is only about, things that are exhibitor conventions, but the topic of this video of not just focusing on the board games and the hypeness, that's where this focus is. The people, to me, is easily the best part. If I don't go to UKGE, if I don't go to Essen, international conventions, for me personally, are less fun. There's a long flight on the way there. Coming home with games is harder to do. International conventions are less my jam, but I get to see people there that I don't get to see at domestic conventions the same way. And people are the thing that constantly bring me back to these conventions that make it exciting and fun to go. But it's not just the people. There is a sense of exploration, a sense of fun of going to a convention and just walking up and down the aisles and seeing what's there. My own personal notes for myself, sure, I go through these lists and I find the most popular projects, and then I filter through there to find the projects that I'm most excited about, and then I do a video telling you about the games that I'm most excited about. And that's all true. They are the games that I'm most excited to see at UKGE, at Origins, at Gencon. That's absolutely true. But then when I get to these conventions, do you know what I do? I go up and down every single aisle. One of the reasons, by the way, that UKG and Essen are amongst my least favorite conventions relative to the others is they don't have numbered lines in the numbered rows, columns, the same way other conventions do. It's less structured that way. It's a little harder to have I'm going up this aisle, then down that aisle, then up that aisle. Essen in particular is like 7 different halls. Trying to get a sense of completionist from that is a completionist nightmare, make no mistake. But at all these conventions, whether they are structured or less so, I go up and down the aisles and I try to see everything. That, to me, is fun. Yes, it's great to walk into it knowing that I want to try these 3 games. But it's also great to not know what to expect, and to find things that looked interesting, and to possibly sit down and demo a game. To look at a quirky little leather mug that wasn't on your radar at all, but you might want to come home with because it is kind of cool. There is something fun about the sense of just browsing things without a specific mission in mind. And your mission could be, that game looks roughly interesting, although I will say, and this is you do you, I am not someone who buys random games without looking into them. If I see a fun, cool looking game, I definitely pop to BGG, see what the general reception is, because sometimes that fun, quirky looking game's got a 5.2 and I just recognize that I'm not the target audience for that game. That can happen too. But sometimes it's fun to just buy those things. There's so many different things you can do. Like, I remember way back when, I'm from Toronto originally, and Toronto has, I think it's called the Craft Show if I'm not mistaken, I remember growing up, I'd go to the craft show with my parents because they were into that, and it was fun to browse these aisles and see cool things and sometimes come home with some of those cool things. And they weren't board games, they were trinkets and fun little gizmos and bags of bejeweled rocks, all kinds of stuff, but it's fun. It's just fun to get cool stuff, whether those cool stuff are board games or whether they are board game adjacent, whether they are dice, whether they are 3D printed gizmos, whatever it is that might be interesting and quirky, it is fun to browse. You don't need to be playing the best, newest board games. Again, the best board games from 2 years ago will do a much better job. They'll serve you better and you can get them for much cheaper. You can buy them online at discounts because, hey, they're 2 years old. But they are well vetted, there's more track record to them. If your goal is just the best games, conventions are not necessarily about that. Conventions are about that sense of discovery. And so feeling a sense that you need to try all these games isn't quite the same as that actual sense of discovery of wandering around and seeing what captures your imagination. What's fun to come home with? What deals can you get? Deals can be a fun thing in their own right, by the way. Trying to find deals, if you want to find deals, wait till the last day of a convention. Sure, you won't find a sold out copy of Ark Nova because it's the first year it came out and people are lining up for hours and hours to get their hands on it. But you know what you will find? You'll find games that are suddenly marked down because vendors don't want to bring them home with them. Nobody wants to just ship a giant pallet full of board games back to a warehouse where they have to pay for that. So they mark them down. Not all vendors, but at the last day of any convention, you'll often find marked down games, deals, buy two, get one free. All these things 25% off. If you want to get the fun new stuff that is not as popular as the newest, but is on sale, that is awesome. You come home feeling like you scored a deal. Granted, you paid hundreds of dollars in travel, hundreds or thousands of dollars in like Airbnbs and hotels. You've paid to be here. You may as well get a good deal on the way out. That sense of discovery is there too. Food is a big one. Every convention I go to, I find the best coffee I can possibly find. In fact, I actually sold my, you know what, here's we're going to do a little shout out to my Ko-Fi and my Patreon, all those. But basically, I'm going to do a video. I forgot. I said this a while ago and I never actually did it. I said I would do a video of my favorite coffee places at each convention I go to because this has been a mission for me for years. And I'm not saying it's not a mission that ends, to be very clear. But every time I go to a convention, I'm like, what's the best coffee in that city? What's the best coffee place close to that convention that I personally enjoy and want to have, that I look forward to when I go to that city? And in most places, I have found a coffee that I like. Not everywhere, but most places I have found. I think Essen's actually been the hardest. Essen so far is the one place where I haven't. So in fact, what I'll do is if you have great coffee in Essen, and by the way, to all my European viewers, I love you. You're great, but I like my coffee American style. And by that I mean large, ideally iced, and sugary. Not like literally sugary, but sweet. I want a good sweet coffee. I don't want like, listen, I'm sorry. I understand that, a good, whatever. European coffee is not my jam, not in the same way. But I will say in Birmingham, I actually found good coffee. Either way, if you are a member of the channel over on Patreon or Ko-Fi, I'll do a video of the conventions I go to and my favorite coffee place at each of those conventions so you can try them. And also, if you're watching this video and you have your own notes, by all means, put them into the comments so I can incorporate them for the conventions that I either haven't gone to or alternatively to do some research the next time I'm at those conventions to try more coffee places. Going back to my main point here, food. Finding food, or I guess in my case it's often coffee. Finding coffee or food is something to look forward to at wherever you're traveling. You're home all the time. You already have your favorite coffee shop, or you're a coffee at home person. I'm a little bit of both personally, but I like coffee. But then when I travel, knowing that I can get Sunagos when I go to Gamma in Kentucky, knowing that I can get, well, you know what, I'm saving this video. I'm saving for the video. Every place has their own coffee that I look forward to. And whether it's food, whether it's a good burger, whether it's a good shawarma, whether it's a good coffee, whatever it is your heart is craving, there's something fun about just traveling and trying the local cuisine. Whether it's the same as you have at home or just a new place, a new flavor, new profile, whatever it is. There's so much fun to be had in traveling. There's so much fun to be had in relationships. There's so much fun to be had in that sense of exploration. There's even so much fun to be had in the things that go wrong. So much goes wrong when you travel. Whether it's luggage you lost, a passport you can't find, whether it's, the time you missed your flight and had to drive home. I've done that. Or in my case, I've also done the one where Frontier offered me like $1,000 to miss my flight. And so I basically drove down to Dice Tower East one year, losing a lot of sleep, driving 17 hours, but also getting $1,000 in flight credit for future flights that I still haven't used up. I probably should do that. I just don't fly Frontier a lot for a good reason, but it makes for a great story. Travel and all the things that go wrong with it make for great stories. It makes for good entertainment and things that you can enjoy even and especially when things go wrong. It won't feel like it in the moment, trust me, but down the road it becomes something that, especially if you went through it with friends, it becomes something that you can talk about. The people, the places, the sense of exploration, the sense of discovery, the finding what's new, all of this is part of a convention experience. And so the next time you watch a top 10 list around conventions, 10 games to look forward to at Gencon, 10 games to look forward to at Origins, take it for what it is. It's a list of things that you might peripherally have on your radar. If you're walking by a booth and you remember that, oh, I saw insert channel name mentioning that, maybe you check it out a little bit more because your favorite content creator or creators were talking about it. But that's all it should be. Don't drive yourself crazy. Don't worry to yourself that there's 50 games at UKGE that you have to get your hands on or else. There aren't. Most of these games are flash in the pans. If you looked at last year's top 10 games to be excited about, pick whatever convention you want. Pick your content creator. Pick a content creator you enjoy and pick one of the videos from last year of X number of games at convention to be excited about. And then see how many of those are still relevant. Very few are. These are good awareness lists, but that's all they are. They are good for you to be aware of. Everything else that you can truly enjoy about a convention are things you can get just by going and living in the moment. I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Also, I should mention, because I forgot to do it earlier in this video, that Allplay is a channel sponsor. And so when you're at a convention, if you are looking for a board game bag, go ahead to the Allplay booth and ask them for a board game bag because they are the best board game bags in the business. Fun fact, at Essen last year, I needed to travel home and I had a choice. I could go ahead and get my hands on a new piece of luggage, or I could buy an Allplay bag and ship that home. And that's what I did. I bought their last tan Allplay bag before that particular color went out of stock, and then I had an Allplay bag for less than the cost of luggage, and I was able to ship games that I bought at the convention home, and they all arrived undamaged. They did arrive. I patted them a bit, but they all arrived undamaged. Anyways, Allplay is a channel sponsor. Thank you to Allplay for being a channel sponsor, and get Allplay bags at board game conventions. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. Hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, I hope you have a good one.